Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Garth, Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco, and you're listening to the Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast series. Follow along as I interview the best and brightest leaders in the insurance industry and insurtech landscape to bring you the latest in digital transformation, innovation, industry trends, challenges, and opportunities, as well as next-gen technologies. We use our experience to anticipate what's next without losing sight of what's now. Stay tuned to find out your next now. Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast, Future of Insurance with Majesco. I am thrilled today to have one of our newest partners joining us, Felix D'Alancon, who is the COO of AKUR8. We just announced in the last few months this partnership with him, and we're thrilled with it. Welcome, Felix.
Thank you so much, Denise, for having me on the podcast. Really a pleasure to be here.
Thrilled to have you with us because this topic, the combination of pricing and rating, is like the hottest topic in the marketplace, given everything that's been happening. But before we get started, why don't you talk about your background, your role at AKUR8 and our partnership?
Sure, of course. So I'm currently Chief Operating Officer at AKUR8. My background previous to AKUR8 is in consulting mainly, where I worked with large organizations, including insurance companies, on major transformation projects. And as COO today, my focus is on enabling our growth, both organic and inorganic, and in particular in the North America region, and also to improve our operational performance. A little bit of background on AKUR8. We are a software company providing actuarial solutions in pricing and reserving for non-life insurance companies. We were founded in 2018 in France. Since then, we've become a truly global company with over half our customers now in North America, offices in New York, Atlanta, Montreal. And our team is now close to 200 people. We're a real mix between really the technology and the actuarial worlds. And we have, on one hand, credentialed actuaries working hand in hand with data scientists, software engineers. The point of all that is really to build the most advanced products possible for actuaries. And as you said, Denise, since last year, I think we've had a great partnership with Majesco, the point of which is really to integrate AKUR8's pricing solution with Majesco's enterprise rating to offer carriers a seamless end-to-end pricing and rating workflow.
You didn't give yourself enough credit, but given that I'm pretty involved in the insurtech space, I just want to highlight you guys have been one of the most successful insurtech startups in the marketplace. And kudos to you guys for really finding an area of focus of a real industry need. And also, I think at a time when who would have expected what's been happening the last 2-3 years with the need to really adjust pricing as much as we have, having a solution like what you guys have to be able to really address that increasing market need. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you so much. It's been a great journey, and it's been very exciting to see how much our product has resonated with actuaries on the market.
Yeah. So as I've indicated, the P&C market has really changed in the last couple of years in terms of pace and changes to pricing for a wide array of products. And it's really a reaction to the risk and competitive changes and just the cost changes for some of the products in the marketplace. Share what you've seen and how this has shifted pricing strategies and operational needs with insurers.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that I think P&C market especially has been undergoing an unprecedented amount of change. Obviously, there's all the factors we all know about. There's the climate risk, inflationary pressures, geographic instability, new customer behaviors. All of that is adding, I think, a lot of complexity and volatility to the business environment for insurers generally. And what this means more specifically for pricing, I think, is that you really have a cycle time for making pricing decisions that's becoming shorter and shorter. That's really collapsed. And those who can't make those decisions fast and adapt quickly will get left behind. In actuarial science, I think the mathematical, underpinnings of what actuaries do is quite stable. I don't think it's changing as fast. GLM's credibility models, I think those techniques evolve slower. But today, I think the competitive edge, is defined not really by what model you use, but how fast and how intelligently you can iterate and execute, I think is even more important than the underlying mathematical model. And so that means being able to rapidly assess the impact of a new data set, testing alternative assumptions, and just generally being able to continuously refine your rating structures, I think is really key.
It's really changed the role of the actuaries to be much more responsive rather than doing these, long detailed studies like we've done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to be super responsive. They need to be able to work with IT in a much more efficient way. And I think that they have a much more expansive role now. It's not just about creating the most accurate models, but really about having an impact on the whole business and working across all the different teams just to be able to update those prices and have the most relevant pricing strategy on the market.
Pricing is absolutely a critical component for carriers to be able to bring it to market for their products, but it's bringing it to market into the rating module. So when you're doing the underwriting, you can actually rate this stuff. This is where I think the partnership is really interesting, particularly given from a standalone rating solution, enterprise rating solution that can be used across multiple admin systems. I think what's been really interesting as we've worked together is how what you guys are doing, actuaries tend to like spreadsheets a lot. We tend to use spreadsheets as an input into the rating module. Kind of share your perspectives on the impact of having this well integrated end-to-end solution, but also creating something both on your side from a pricing perspective, but also on our side that is really comfortable for actuaries. So they kind of change the use of technology that they've been using in the past to AKUR8 and being able to use that.
I think there's two separate questions there that are both really worth spending time on. The first, on the end to end, I think that's really key for both our companies. I think that having a sophisticated pricing model means nothing without good execution. And really, for too long, insurers have been spending, months pushing rates from pricing teams to IT. And every day we hear complaints from our customers, from actuaries on sort of that broken handover between pricing and IT. And the result is really just like missed opportunity for carriers and pricing that's a bit stale and this like inability to respond to these market shifts that are happening faster and faster. And so of course that's where the partnerships comes in, and that's where a truly integrated solution from pricing design to rating execution really closes that gap. It ensures that, the strategy doesn't get lost in translation in that handover. And that's what our partnership enables. It's like taking these rigorously developed pricing models and pushing them directly into production, like fast and accurately. And so it's really about speed, but also reducing that friction between modeling and implementation. I think, especially in all lines of business, but especially in competitive lines, in these
Mhm.
volatile environments, that can really make the difference between profit and loss for a carrier.
It also, I think, because of that process, when you've got those handovers, sometimes there's this manual handover and then a manual inputting of the new rate, the new pricing rates. I think this integration provides a different level of quality and consistency as well that sometimes was missed when you had these manual handovers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about, as you say, not only the speed, but really the consistency of reducing the friction, the amount of errors, being able to execute much faster. And in the end, you get better business outcomes thanks to that. I did wanted to respond to your
Yeah.
second question around the technology, the use of technology at
Yep.
carriers. So my observation, having worked at AKUR8 and in the insurtech world for quite some years now, is that as a software provider, you're always trying to push your customers to adopt better technology. That's your
Hmm.
goal. But also ultimately you need to meet the carriers where they are. And in many cases that's, still spreadsheets, which is fine. And so instead of sometimes forcing, complete tooling shifts, it's important that we make it easy for whether at AKUR8 our models to be easily exported into spreadsheet in readable formats or to be operationalized through like APIs, whatever fits the workflow. And that enables us to not, disrupt the actuaries workflows, but rather enhance them. And so you can take a model built in AKUR8, export it, and drop it directly into a rating table. And that's what happens with our integration and our partnership.
I think it really helps with adoption and change. It makes the change easier and more acceptable to people, quite frankly.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I love the insurance industry, but let's be honest, they're not always the fastest to adopt change. So we're here to nudge them a bit faster than maybe they would on their own, but compromise is good.
A little risk adverse, I guess that it's the essence of what we are. Yeah, exactly. So, what are some examples of use cases that you've done with customers? And I know you've got to be confidential in that, but kind of the impact that what you guys do has had in their business.
Yeah, sure. There's actually two customer examples that we've had authorization to share, so that are actually pretty different and interesting. The first one is with an insurtech called Hippo, so pretty famous
Oh
insurtech.
yeah.
They were really sitting on a gold mine of data. That was their challenge, is that they had these hundreds of variables with potential predictive power, but sifting through that manually wasn't really viable, and hiring 20 more actuaries wasn't the answer either. So they were able to do with AKUR8 is automate the variable selection process, and our platform really detected the correlations and the right combinations, and that resulted in a huge amount of time saved in the modeling process, and really allowed their modeling team to focus on the more high value work and
Mhm.
aligning, the pricing with the underwriting strategy, exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, and making more sort of nimble rating decisions. And so that's really a perfect case of what we're talking about a lot today, is like augmenting human expertise with AI. That's the first one. And the second use case is very different. It's with another one of our customers called Tokyo Marine HCC. So specialty carrier, pretty limited data, these long-tailed risks. So a very different use case. And their challenge wasn't that they had too much data at all. It was the opposite. Their data was too scarce. They were relying heavily on expert judgment, as is usually the case, in these specialty lines, but they didn't really have a statistical framework to validate it. And that's where AKUR8 came in. And then we gave them a credibility framework that sort of removed the guesswork and told them where they had enough data and significant like signal in the data and where they didn't. And that really empowered the teams to be able to do more statistically and with modeling, and also iterate faster, test things more rigorously, and just make better informed decision, and having more confidence in the pricing decisions they were making.
Two opposite ends of the spectrum, kind of perspective from a data perspective.
Exactly. But I think it's interesting that this highlights sort of the range of where software companies can support carriers. There's the high velocity digital players and very traditional carriers that are managing complex risks. And I think they all want the same thing in the end, is to be able to, make better decisions, make them faster, make them with more confidence. And I think both our platforms enable that.
We're still, as an industry, we're still undergoing a lot of change and looking at more granular pieces of data to underwrite at an individual level or at an asset level in the case for PNC. What do you see that's next for pricing and rating from both a business and a technology perspective on the horizon that kind of excites you?
There's trends like autonomous vehicles where that technology is prompting a rethink, where liability may have to move from, individual drivers to manufacturers. I think in pricing, the most exciting thing is that we see just the level of innovation in the design of products is increasing. I think there's more innovative products, there's more innovative pricing models, and that has a direct impact on the actual function. And so if I take the case of an insurer, let's say a health insurer that now offers a product which monitors a policyholder's health, like dietary habits,
Mhm.
and rewards them with lower premiums. And that's a really innovative product that gives policyholders, it can give them, broader coverage, can make their coverage, their protection levels more affordable. And so in those cases, it's an innovation that not only makes a client stay healthy, but also will reduce like costs, reduce lapse rates. And the impact, I think, of that on pricing, on actuaries, is there's going to be so much more data. The data collection methods evolve to support, these kinds of innovative projects. And that creates more data to play with, but also more pressure, I think, to adopt newer techniques like AI machine learning into the actual process. And so I think this innovation is directly linked to more sophistication and more pressure to adopt these technologies. And I think that's going to be key in the future.
That's going to be a really exciting period of time. So, one of the things I like to do at the end of a podcast, Felix, is I always like to ask this final question. If you could use one word or phrase to describe the future of insurance, what would it be and why?
I think, Denise, I would say adaptive, because I think the insurers who thrive tomorrow are going to be those that can adapt to all these fast changes we've been mentioning, changes in risk and in customer behavior, in regulation and adapt to the pace of technology. And I think that pace is accelerating. I think static pricing models and rigid IT architectures and slow decision cycles, I think that's not going to cut it anymore. And adaptability to data, to AI, with always human insight and human control, I think is going to be the key to winning for carriers in the future.
Well, Felix, we really thrilled with our partnership, and I see a lot of opportunity ahead jointly as we continue to work with our existing customer base and new customers to really help elevate what it is that they're doing from a pricing perspective and also a rating perspective, be more competitive in the market. So it's going to be a fun time ahead.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the partnership and to what we can accomplish together in the future. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Denise. It was great to be on the podcast, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
That's it for this week's episode of Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast. Subscribe to our market leading podcast series available wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in the next time.